Crews in the cars had it no easier. Early morning at the Grand Palm Hotel in Gaborone, Botswana, and the anticipation is palpable in the air before the start of the 1997 Toyota 1000 Desert Race. It's round 4 of the South African National Off-Road Championship, and getting maximum points was crucial for the contenders in the various categories. In the production vehicle category, reigning champions Api Reyneke and Robin Houghton had a 31-point lead over Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert, but there was no place for complacency.
Ons het alles gedoen wat 'n mens moontlik kan doen om hierdie byeenkoms vandag en môre te wen. So wat ons kampioenskapspunte aanbetref, ons is baie tevrede waar ons op die oomblik is, en ons hoop dat met hierdie wen ons die voorsprong nog 'n bietjie gaan vergroot.
In the special vehicle category, Frans Chepek Senior and Junior had a 21-point cushion, but in the battle for second, only 9 points separated the next 3 teams.
Well, it's actually going to be as per normal. We've got the title to defend. We're going to hang in the morning reasonably slowly today, and we've got 2 days ahead of us, so we're going to go through the field as we go. We're starting 4th on the grid. We pulled 4th out of a hat, which is not a bad position, and we're going to just take it easy and keep the car together, because I think the important day is tomorrow, and for tomorrow is what we're looking forward to, the finishing line.
Racing Section 1 would take competitors on an almost 500-kilometer route in 2 loops, with a designated service point about 40 kilometers northwest of Molopolole. First away were Api Reyneke and Robin Houghton in their Toyota Land Cruiser. They were followed by the first car in the special vehicle category, John Lambert and Hendrik Fourie in the Digidor Chenoweth. Kasi Kutsia and Richard Leek in their 4-wheel drive Castrol Toyota Hilux Turbo, affectionately known as Fred, took to the road, followed by the Chepeks in their V-Motors Raceco. Even with the sun up, it was bitterly cold as Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne pulled away in their Mototech Jimco. Having started 30 seconds apart early in the race is the best time to improve on your position. Things were already hotting up at the front of the field, and while Reyneke and Houghton were still ahead on the road, Frans Chepek Senior and Junior had already moved up to second on the road after starting 4th. Lambert and Fourie in the Digidor Chenoweth were down to 3rd on the road. Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne in their Mototech Jimco were taking things easy initially, just checking out the conditions. Kasi Kutsia and Richard Leek also decided to take it easy early on the first day, allowing themselves to fall back on the road, but knowing that the Toyota 1000 devours over-eager competitors. In car with Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert, and just ahead are Richard Carolyn and Nick Harper and Paul McMahon. Barker were passed by both cars shortly after the start, and it's clear that the sandy, twisty road was keeping them all together. Some good rains a few weeks before the event left some water in the rivers, and numerous crossings were the order of the day. 1995 champion Greg Harvey and Boyce Stone in their Queen Motorspares Raceco were holding steady after starting 9th. Barberspun 500 winners Shamir Variawa and Liko Khan in their distinctive pink special, gingerly crossing the river and making sure that water doesn't get into the engine. Nardus Alberts and Warren Klaassen in a Raceco had the hammer down from early on in the race and were moving up the field. At the spectacular river bridge crossing about 13 kilometers outside Gaborone, just about the whole local community turned up to watch the event. The Chepeks had by this time taken the lead on the road and were pushing hard. By now, Schilling and Thorne were second on the road and trying to get closer to the Chepeks. Right behind them, Reyneke and Houghton were staying in contact. Four-wheel drive was a distinctive advantage up this slope. The mud at this point was getting worse as more and more vehicles churned it loose. Lambert and Fourie decided on the flat-out strategy, now lying 4th on the road. On their way to the spectator point were Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. And it wasn't only the chopper pilot who was doing some low flying. The Toyota crew had some time to make up, and Coetzee had the hammer down as he sped along the sand. Nick Harper and Paul McMahon were fifth on the road and chasing hard in their Team Pro-M Raceco. That steep slope was getting tougher and tougher to overcome. A beautiful sight, the water in the river, with the leaders of Class E in the production vehicle category, Llewellyn Anthony and Chris Birkin in their Toyota Hilux, still 10th on the road. At the river crossing, things were starting to get hectic. Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert in the Pennzoil Land Rover had Nardus Alberts and Warren Klaassen in their Raceco breathing down their necks, while Shamir Variawa and Liko Khan checked the scene out properly before they attacked the river and the slope. Robert Walker and Donovan Roscoe in the Superpave Raceco were pushing hard and had already passed quite a few cars that started ahead of them. The Toyota 1000 was living up to its reputation and tough battles were starting to develop. Richard Carolyn in his lubrication equipment Raceco had younger brother Bux and Kenny Schulthammer right behind him, also in a lubrication equipment Raceco. Coming up to a Marshall Point, just to confirm that they were following the correct route, were Jackie Joubert and Donnie Smith in their Jojo Tanks Volkswagen Beetle. Schumi and Karel van Vuren started 16th and were going along steadily in their Mitsubishi Pajero. Niels Lemmer and Dries de Klerk found the conditions not too difficult in their Toyota Hilux. Making his long-distance off-road debut was rally driver and Total Super Series star Paulo Piazzamusso with Stratford Voort in the Creepy Crawly Ford. Paulo was initially finding it difficult to adjust to the intense concentration over long distances required in off-road racing. Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak, who won their class in the Sugarbelt 400 on debut in the Mitsubishi Pajero, were attempting to repeat that performance and were chasing Lemmer and de Klerk in their Hilux. Hectic activity at the designated service area as the front runners on the road, Franz Czepek Sr. and Jr., and their pit crew make sure that everything is in order for the next 250-kilometer loop. Although the Czepeks did take some knocks, they had to get going as quickly as possible, with Coetzee and Leek now breathing down their necks. John Lambert and Hendrik Fourie were in the pits at the same time and were trying to make up some time by getting away quicker than the Czepeks. No serious problems for them either. Nardus Alberts and Warren Klaassen bringing their Rapso Raceco into the pits after completing about 250 kilometers of desert racing. Now, behind Coetzee and Leek in the production vehicle category, Api Rennick and Robin Houghton with their Toyota Land Cruiser in and out of the service area in no time. There was frantic activity after the pit crews for the Carolyn brothers and Richard Schilling arrived late at the designated service area. We asked Bux Carolyn about the conditions.
It's fast out there, but the sand's very thick and we're having problems with the engine temperature. Otherwise, it's fine.
Jackie Joubert and Donnie Smith's Jojo Tanks Turbo Beetle getting a quick checkover, while Harry Roscoe's Raceco gets fuel. Carolyn and Schulthammer leaving the service area refreshed and keen to take on the opposition, as Natalians Derek Pinnoy and Craig Jackson in their Quickfoot Raceco arrive at the end of Loop 1. About 50 kilometers into the second loop, and Coetzee and Leek, now first on the road, were flying. As were the Czepeks in their V-Motors Raceco. Although they had been passed by the Castrol Toyota Hilux, they were still leading the special vehicle category. Conditions were still very sandy, but smooth and fast. Lambert and Fourie in the Digidor Chenoweth were going extremely well and were about 3 minutes behind the Czepeks. Reigning production vehicle champions Alpi Reineke and Robin Houghton had fallen back to 4th overall because of a puncture, but were working hard to keep in touch with the frontrunners. Jackie Joubert and Dani Smith in the 4-wheel drive Jojo Tanks Beetle with a Volvo turbo engine were just about a minute behind Reineke and Houghton. Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne in the Motortech Jimco were 6th on the road. Bux Carolyn and Kenny Scholtheimer succeeded in passing older brother Richard and were now lying 8th on the road in the lubrication equipment raceco. Back on board with Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert in the Pennzoil Land Rover. After the recent good rains, the trees were lining the road, leaving a very narrow track for the drivers to follow. Leading Class E in the production vehicle category at this stage were Niels Lemmer and Dries de Klerk in their Toyota Hilux. About 3 minutes behind them in Class E was the Mitsubishi Pajero of Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak. While the only other Pajero in the field, that of Schumi and Karel van Vuren, was lying 3rd in Class D. This is the first season that we've seen Mitsubishi Pajeros campaigning in the South African Off-Road Championship. Seemingly, the flapping bonnet didn't bother them at all. But nothing could stop Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek, bringing their Castrol Toyota Hilux home in front of everybody else after about 500 kilometers of hard racing. Toyota had the first 3 positions in the production vehicle category after day 1, with Coetzee and Leek leading Reineke and Houghton by almost 10.5 minutes. The 2 Pajeros were separated by only 20 seconds.
Ons het goed begin vanmôre. My temperament was heeltemal reg. En die doel is natuurlik om die Toyota 1000 te wen. Ons het wel 'n 7 minute voorsprong wat in ons guns is. Môre is die 500 km terug waarvoor ek baie goed gemotiveerd is en ek dink ons as span gaan baie goed doen. Ons is baie gelukkig as ons geen groot meganiese breuke gehad nie, ook nie 'n papwiel nie. So ons sien uit na môreoggend.
After a very smooth run, leading home the special vehicle field and in 2nd position overall were Frans Čepek Sr. and Jr. in the V-Motors raceco. The father and son combination were just over 6 minutes behind Coetzee and Leek and had a comfortable gap over Lambert and Fourie. Joubert and Smith were in a solid 3rd position.
We're in first and we hope to stay that way. We've got about a 4-minute lead on the nearest guy, but I believe the first sort of 8 specials are within about 10 minutes of each other, so it's going to be a hard day tomorrow.
And a well-deserved rest at the overnight stop before an early start for day 2. Early to bed for the early rise, as only off-roaders can do, and everything was set for an exciting Section 2. Section 1 in reverse direction. Coetzee and Leek led the field away. Six minutes and 10 seconds to make up, and the Čepeks set off in a determined mood. It was cold, very cold, and the spectators didn't envy crews with open windows at speed. Lambert and Fourie were 3rd away. Reineke and Houghton starting about 10.5 minutes behind the leaders. Coetzee and Leek were pushing the Castrol Toyota Hilux as hard as possible, the sun in their eyes not making it easy at all. The early morning sun was great for beautiful camera shots, but the drivers were wishing it would climb quicker. Frans Čepek Sr. behind the wheel of the V-Motors raceco. Still 3rd on the road, Lambert and Fourie in the Digidor Chenoweth. Not far behind, but still in 4th, Reineke and Houghton in the Toyota Land Cruiser. Joubert and Smith were hoping that their trouble-free run would continue in the Jojo Tanks Beetle Turbo. Schilling and Thorne in their Motortech Jimco still holding on to 6th overall, followed by Harry Roscoe in his Hitachi raceco. Obud Carolyn in his lubrication equipment raceco quickly caught and passed younger brother Bux, although on total time he and Kenny Scholtheimer were still in front. Rob Walk and Donovan Roscoe started 10th and were holding on to that position in their raceco. Knowing the nature of the route after the previous day, most drivers were going quicker on day 2. Class E leaders in the production vehicle category, Niels Lemmer and Dries de Klerk in their Toyota Hilux. Back on board with Barker and Hubert in the Pennzoil Land Rover, the sun really making things difficult. But fortunately, Woolridge pulls over in the Pajero to let him through. The Van Vierens in the Class D Pajero had been passed by Woolridge and Barker, and now they had Alberts and Klaassen in the Rapsa Raceco snapping at their heels. Not far behind, Derek Pinoy and Craig Jackson in the Kwekford Raceco. Meanwhile, Coetzee and Leek came storming into a checkpoint, damage evident to the nose of the Castrol Toyota Hilux.
7 k's back, there's a dead cow. Dead cow, in the road. He jumped out on top of it. Okay.
And there's the aftermath of the accident, which would prove crucial to the eventual outcome of the race. Coetzee and Leek would lose valuable time because of radiator damage and an overheating engine, allowing the Chepex to take the overall lead. Reyneke and Houghton in the Toyota Land Cruiser were moving up in the field and were in second overall, having passed Lambert, Fourie and Coetzee and Leek. In third position now were Schilling and Thorne in their Motortech Jimco, pushing hard and looking at their best result of the season. While Rob Walk, who was sharing the driving with Sports 2000 racer Donovan Roscoe, were lying fourth in their Super Pave Raceco. Derek Pinoy and Craig Jackson were slicing through the field in their Kwekford Raceco, coming up from 17th to 5th on the road. Harry Roscoe in his Hitachi Raceco made up 1 place and was in 6th. The special vehicles found the conditions much to their liking, and Carolyn and Schultheimer moved up to 7th in their lubrication equipment Raceco. Hubert and Smith in the Jojo Tank's Beetle Turbo Volvo 4x4 were struggling, losing 3 places to lie 8th. While Rashid Noble and Steve Cooper in their Raceco were having a good run and were lying 9th from a 19th starting position. Barker and Hubert started the day in 14th position overall and were making good progress to lie 10th just before the designated service point. This was where a very worried-looking Toyota service crew were frantically trying to repair the damage to the Castrol Hilux. With about 50 kilometers to go, Frans Chepek Jr. was going flat out to nail home their advantage. Back at the famous River Bridge crossing, and Api Reyneke and Robin Houghton were treating it very cautiously in the Toyota Land Cruiser, lying 2nd overall now and leading the production vehicle class. Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne in the Motortech Jimco were 3rd on the road and 2nd in the special vehicle category. 4th now were Bux Carolyn and Kenny Schultheimer, who had a great run in their lubrication equipment Raceco, taking advantage of the misfortunes of others. Cliff Barker and Malcolm Hubert were 5th on the road in their Pennzoil Land Rover, but up to 3rd in the production vehicle category. Jackie Hubert and Danny Smith were having their best race of the season, lying 5th overall and 4th in the special vehicle category. Rashid Noble and Steve Cooper also had a good race in their Raceco, coming home in 10th overall and 6th in class. Coetzee and Leek were pushing hard after the damage had been partially repaired, but to make things worse, a drive shaft broke with the finish almost in sight, and they lost even more time before it could be replaced. The Mitsubishi Pajero of Woolridge and Vermaak had another solid race, leading Class E of the production vehicle category and lying 9th overall. But winning overall as well as their category for the third time in 4 races this year was the father and son combination of Franz Čepek Sr. and Jr. They led Schilling and Thorn home in the special vehicle category by almost 37 minutes, thereby cementing their lead in the special vehicle championship. Hubert and Smith headed Walk and Roscoe by a mere 14 seconds.
We've been waiting for this for a long, long time. We've won most of the other races, but this one's been a challenge. And 2 years ago, we were half an hour ahead, 100 k's from the end, and we lost it because we jammed in gear. But this year, we've done it, and I did it together with my son, which is fantastic. I'm really happy.
After losing a lot of time on day 1 due to a puncture, Reyneke and Houghton had no problems on day 2 and stayed in second position overall, winning the production vehicle category. Coetzee and Leek finished second in the production vehicle category, moving past Barker and Hubert. Woolridge and Van Vuren brought the two Pajeros home for another good finish.
Ons het niks probleme gehad behalwe vir die papwiel gister en soos ek gesê het, jy weet daai 10 minute wat jy verloor, jy kry dit net nie weer opgemaak nie. As die ou voor jou nie iets met hom iets gebeur laat hy verdwaal of ook 'n papwiel kry nie, kry hom net nie gevang nie. Ons het by verskillende marshals verby. Elke marshal se tyd het tussen 9 en 10 minute agter Čepek hulle gebly. So dit is so die kompetisie is baie sterk.